Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. I am continuing with bringing two things together. The one is the Chinese text that I have with a bunch of RHINO scripts, the GHPYTHON computer-aided geometric design, and the second thing I'm bringing together is going into the samples and playing around with the Python script that Steve Bear has put together. So I'm between this information, I'm trying to get it into my head as best I can. Obviously, I've had to bring in more plugins than I intended as RHINO.geometry. I've got to deal with script context, even though I'm taking that out and actually adding in a totally different thing, which I'll show you. But this one I brought together this and the breadbox. So I stole the breadbox script and in Python. Cut and paste it. Whenever I cut it out of here, I literally just select it, copy it, and then I take it over here and I pop it into my Python script editor just to make sure it's running. So this isn't the one, but this was one I was doing earlier. Anyway, so if it's up and running, that's fine. Then I go in and I select I actually don't have this one set up yet. This will be green for outputs. This will be there's no parameters playing with here. I put everything into the script, hard-coded or not. And actually, I used some maths to put some random in here, and you'll see exactly what I did to run this script. And my outputs are A, C, and X out, which might make sense in a minute. One goes to a breadbox, and one goes to a piped circle, because I didn't bring in a torus, or I didn't bring in I actually just brought in a circle, so I had to do that with Grasshopper when I was done. So I still have a little color coding here to do, and if we hang on to the end, I'll do it. But as I run the script, you can see what happens. I have these random boxes coming, and they're baking in a cube every time I run a random, and they bake in a circle every time I run it, and they show me where the selected, obviously, piece is. If I selected that, you'd see that it's actually everything being selected, but only one is being baked, and you're not catching a glimpse of the circle. And the circle changes its the torus changes its radius every time it's generated, and I'll show you how that happens in the script. So let's clean it up and show you what's going on, and maybe I'll take this down to 10, take this down to random 10, random 10, random, actually, we'll leave those at 100, because I like the spacing, and let's just run that script, and you can see that we're only getting 10 boxes, and the sphere's jumping around. So that's a little easier to see. We've got different numbers with different radius that are being generated. So fun little script for producing geometries. I'm not sure why you'd want to make something like this, maybe for a mobile or something like that, but there really are the ABCs of trying to figure this out. I'm just going to end it with a torus that's a little bigger so you can see it. Depends on the randomness of what's happening. So I imported RHINO. I imported RHINO geometry as RG. So I didn't have to type it. Imported script context was in the script. Import system GUID was in the script, and I had to import random. I'm keeping in mind that I have to swap out wherever it says script context.doc. I've got to put in my RHINO doc, active doc, and I put that in here, here, and here, and here. So that's where I had to switch that out so I could get it to bake over from the Python node into the RHINO window. Otherwise, if you're working in the Python script editor, you would have the script context in there to put it over from the script over into the window. So I figured that out just by trial and error. I created a list, blank list, empty list, array of breps, and for I in range 0 to 10, which I changed to 10 at the start of this video, you will have a range in XYZ of whatever that range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you will have those boxes kind of shoot out in 3 dimensions into this quadrant, so in positive direction X, Y, Z. And you could change that to negatives or whatever you want. Then I'm generating a point because I want to build a bounding box. So bounding box is dependent upon, to brep that box, you're going to close it up, but you've got to make a bounding box with this function in RHINO geometry, which is dependent on 2 points, so you have to make those points in RHINO geometry. So I always work backwards when I'm doing that, and then I will append the breps, the left the breast, with the brep being generated, and each time A will output all those breps, and that's why they jump around, 10 of them everywhere they go, because they're just random. And then one of them is being selected, which I think is kind of cool, and I didn't intend to do that, but the RHINO doc, active doc, use redraw, we'll pop that in there, and this is just a little check loop if statement, sorry, if it will be not empty, and then as if I was selecting it from a window, like going up to the command line, but I just left it because it's easier to leave it running. I'll weed things out as I get more intermediate and proficient at this. The other script is very similar to the top one, so I drew the same geometries. I said, well, let's just generate a point at 5 plus 5, so it would jump up kind of, I think, into the center. I think that's where I'm going with that. I was going to do a little math on the x to 10, and then I realized, well, I'll just add 5 to each one. And it seemed to work and place it pretty much in the middle of each square, so that was nice. And the way I kind of look at things is I analyze things in the top side views and try and find what the geometry is doing. This is a cool little, data visualization tool, I guess, if you wanted to generate these drawings. They're quite beautiful in and of themselves, and they're based in the beauty of the script. C is the circle, and it needs a center and radius, so that was easy to just pull a center from the points I talked about. The radius I set just to X, but you could switch that up to the random Y, switch that up to the random Z, whatever you wanted, it wouldn't matter. And I could just type in here, which is really good practice, pound Y and pound Z, because then I could just kind of take out the hashtag or take this one, put it over to here. If I remove that, cut it, put it over to the Z, to the X here, put the pound on, paste, but that's going to take out the whole line, so that doesn't work. That's a foolish thing to do. I think I'll just leave it as X for now. If I wanted to change it, I'd change it, or I'd make radius something that would come in out of the inputs on my, I can always put radius in here and have it inputted. But every time you're messing with this function, you run the function, which is kind of nice. So I'm just going to take it out and we'll do another bake while I do that. And since I'm not too happy with that geometry that's sitting there, I'll just do it again until I get a nice big torus. Sometimes it balloons up so big you can't even see it. Anyway, not getting too much range on that. Let's see what drastically happens for the radius of that if I go to Y. I don't think much different will happen. No, it's still coming up in the same kind of chaos. And I'm just going to erase everything so I can look at it again and produce again some images and sketches. I just think it's a wonderful... I think of these as machines. I think of the Python node as just a little tiny machine that'll do what I want. And we'll just grab the Z, which will probably be just as random because it doesn't really... It's just a choice of what's being selected. And of course, it's random, so it could be any number. So I guess X, Y, Z really doesn't matter unless you want to do some math on that, write some equations. Circle is definitely set to that, and then I left the same GUID empty because that system was in there at the top as the imports, and the only output I did was I decided, why don't we make the radius of that? Yeah, I guess here's where I could change it up, X, Y, Z, or whatever. You don't want to do X by X because then you're not going to get any, you just get a number 1. You may as well just hard code in 1 for the radius. So that said, let me jump here and grab group, grab a color. Oh, that's not going to work. Sometimes when you do this, you have to ungroup, and then it's still there. Go to the blob, it'll go round. That's a very strange little bug that I think I'm the only nerd that's actually figured that out. And I'm jumping over to my other screen now because just making that kind of green to say go and look at some of your geometries, add to group. It's just a habit of what I've been doing lately with this, just so it visualizes when I bring these in. And then this one I'll just group, and hopefully that'll be the same thing. I can blob that. Nope. Same case happened. You got to take out the ungroup, and there's a weird thing that's debugging out with the names when I do that too. Anyway, I'll see what that's all about sooner or later. Oh, and always little color knobs. If you don't get them right, or if you do-si-do in or out. Sorry to waste your time on this, but it's just what happens. Go up to the red, and there you go. You got to stop and you got to start, and have a look at your script, have some fun with it. And that is it. So as I'm generating, I actually like some of these technical top viewers, this artistic side view. Really nice kind of data, just visualizing some tools, making some geometries, having fun with it. There's still an awful lot of purposelessness in what I'm doing outside of the fact that I'm trying to figure out a lot of these scripts. So the next one I'm going to go to, if we jump in here just so you can anticipate the next video, is go back to here. We've done the circle. Clipping plane sounds fun. It's not that hard. I was looking at it before, so going back through it and applying the scripts is always what keeps this interesting, keeps my mind active. But that's not going to be too hard. It does have the RHINO scripts context, which I'll bring in the other RHINO. I should keep that memorized, what that actually is. It's a rhino.rhinodoc.activedoc, so Rhino ActiveDoc, as opposed to script context doc. And as long as I change those, they'll bake out as I go. Looks like I'll have an ID, which is clipping plane ID, which will produce it, and I can take this out of the function. I'm taking it out of the functions right now so I can understand the inner workings of it. I will go to using more and more functions as we go, but at that point, it's not really a tutorial basis. It's more like, where do I get the information? How do I make this certain type of script or geometry? So this is how I'm going to learn the whole thing. And I'm basically going to run down everything I can through adding objects all the way down to other and see what I can do. Slowly I'll start inputting and having people do things in the Rhino window, and that could be kind of fun. It's tricky trying to get that interface into the Grasshopper, but I think I can figure it out as long as I take baby steps, and I hope you find this interesting. And clipping plane will be next in Python. And then when that's all said and done, I'm going to start looking at it again in C#. So wish me luck, and I hope everybody else is following along with this and having fun with it. I think it's pretty exciting. And let me just grab my geometries one more time. Let's take that up to 100 count again. So we've got 100 lovely spheres in there. You could always put on randoms and random sizes and do everything you ever did in Grasshopper before. But I think it's just fantastic that everything can be tucked away into the script. This geometry is being made, and all you're seeing in Grasshopper are these two little tiny nodes, and you don't even need those. The brep's going to be within here anyway. If I took this to preview on, I could just take that one. I could probably disable that one, I think. Disable off, and you just see it there. It's not even necessary. So I will. I'll delete it and just leave it as its simple little ellipse. And what's nice is every time I touch this, do a little swap, I'm going to get a different form and bake in more and more cubes and geometries. When all is said and done, and you leave your Grasshopper window, which can be fun, you're going to have your geometries that you baked and made this strange construct. Now, you don't have this. These ones didn't bake in as toruses each time, but you'd have to write that into the script to do that. But we'll get there one piece at a time. Thanks for watching.